Hello again. So we've introduced the concept of regression. Our ultimate goal is to perform linear regression on our calculator. But in this video, we'll attempt a more modest goal. How do you know whether to perform linear regression? Well, you should perform linear regression if the data is more or less linear, if it falls in something like a straight line. And to know whether the data is in a more or less straight line, we have to be able to visualize the data. So our goal in this video will be to take a set of data like this. This is our cricket data. X is the number of cricket chirps in a 15-second interval. Y is temperature in degrees Fahrenheit. And we want to then be able to visually represent this data on our calculator. And that will be our goal for this video. Okay, so here's our data, and here's our calculator. Let me just reset this real quick. And our goal is to take this data and plot it on our calculator. And we're going to go to the Stat menu. You see this Stat button right next to the gray arrow keys. That's short for statistics, and we are performing statistics right now. And pressing Stat will take us to this screen. And this is right where we want to be, because we need to enter this data into our calculator. And where we do that is here. You see that edit is already highlighted. We're going to press enter. And you should see something like this. The precise details might vary if you have a TI-83 or some other edition of TI-84, but something like this. L1, L2, L3, those L's stand for list. And we are going to enter these X values and these Y values into these lists. The X values, the independent variables, are going to go into list 1. You see, I just type in the numbers, and when I press enter, and I get taken down to the next entry. So let me try to get this done relatively quickly. Let me just go through this list to double check that I've entered this data correctly. I certainly seem to. And the Y data is going to go into L2. And putting the X data into L1 and the Y data into L2 is going to simplify things down the line. If you put the X data into L3 instead, let's say, you're creating more work for yourself later. So now we enter the Y data, and I mean what you see here is basically ordered pairs. When X is 44, Y is 80.5. When X is 35, Y is 70.5. And so on down the line. Let me get this data entered. Just a quick double check. Okay, and now we're done here. And we're going to quit out. You see a quit in blue up here above the mode button. So our calculator is color coded. We press the blue button, and that lets us access the blue quit command. And now we're going to graph this data. And what we want is a stat plot. You see it above the Y equals button. So again, stat plot, you see it in blue. This is color coded. Press the blue second button, then Y equals, and that will give us the command written in blue up above Y equals. We can plot up to 3 sets of data at once. We've only got the one. It doesn't matter which of these we select. We go ahead and highlight plot 1 and select it. And now we are going to leave everything here alone. Type, this is what we want it to be. You see this scatter plot icon is highlighted. That's just what we're trying to create. The mark is fine. You see by data, by default, sorry, your X data, X list, is stored in L1. Your Y data, Y list, is stored in L2. If we'd stored it somewhere else, we'd have to go down here to change this. That's why when we entered the data, we were sure to put the X points in L1, the Y points in L2, so we wouldn't have to change things now. And we're just going to highlight on and press enter, and we are done. Or rather, we're almost done, because if we press graph, we don't see anything. So what's gone wrong? Nothing's gone wrong exactly. It's just that if you look at the X data, it runs between 18.5 and 44. And if you look at the Y data, it runs between 52 and 80.5. And our default window, the X goes between -10 and 10, and the Y goes between -10 and 10. So all of these points are outside of our default viewing window. That's fine. There's a built-in command to fix this. Press zoom. Scroll down to zoom stat. Press enter. And our calculator will change our viewing window so that all of the statistical data appears. If we now find, where was it? Here's the plot of this data that appears in the textbook. Here's the plot of this data that our calculator has generated. They are the same graph, so we have been successful. Now that we can look at this data and say it looks kind of linear, more or less in a straight line, we are ready to perform linear regression, but we won't do that until the next video. Let's end this one by turning this data off. You don't want to have this cricket chirp data show up now every time you graph anything for the rest of the course. So go back to stat plot and turn this plot off. And now we are ready to do the actual regression, which we'll do in the next video.